with him was built up and made stronger like a muscle.
Mm.
Um, from watching him, I think, I was inspired by him and, recognized I was gifted by God to be his mother. And so I think I began to connect my resilience to my son and both my sons. But that the struggle became my personal ground zero to to try to move from, and just that ministry of presence, just that resilience of, I could sit in a room with you or across from you, Genevieve, and know that you know what I'm feeling, and just your presence is healing. It's like it makes me feel that, God's with me because you're there. And I think that we have those experiences with people who understand us. That's what peer support is, right? Shared lived experience. Yep.
I'm glad you said that. Can you speak to the work you're doing right now? And we have Pat in the room with us in the Zoom room. Thank you so much, Pat, for joining us. She was asking where you are based.
Oh, sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, so for 26 years, I was at Rutgers running a bunch of national and state and local peer-to-peer programs, and I retired recently. And now I live in Roseland, New Jersey, but I run a nonprofit that is also in Roseland, New Jersey called Volunteer. And again, speaking of resilience, after being around rescuers, first responders, police, fire, EMS, nurses, child protection workers, mothers of special needs kids, everybody who takes care of everybody else. My house burnt down. It'll be 3 years ago in a week, like March 9th, almost 3 years ago. And we lost everything. So it was like a total lost fire. And thank God everybody lived, which was a miracle in itself. So I have to acknowledge that. Within 4 minutes of the fire, my husband was out of the house. We were all out of the house. Everybody just on a Wednesday night ended up out of the house when the laundry room that caught on fire hit a
Mm,
gas line in the back of my house,
mm,
and it blew up, you
mm,
know, not entirely up, but blew through the floors and the rooms inside the house. And we were all spared. And so that tragedy showed us how I had a flight that was canceled, and I was yelling at the United attendant, like, why are you canceling my flight? And my one son missed a movie and he was stuck at the later movie. And my older son, LJ, said, oh, I need something at CVS. He was traveling the next day with his girlfriend. So they were going to go to the pharmacy and get those travel size things. And he woke up my husband, who was with the dog, and said, do you want anything? And he said, no, I'm going to walk the dog because you woke me up. So everybody got out of the house, and then the fire engulfed it. And so even our dog that was in the house, the firefighters were able to revive the dog and bring the dog, back to life with pet CPR and an oxygen mask. So
mm.
everything about the fire was miraculous, but
Wow.
we ended up in a hotel with the clothes on our back. Um, and we lost everything after living there for 25 years. So that tragedy turned into triumph through the grace of God,
Mm,
um, because we had a chance to receive now for the first time. A lot of us are givers. We're
yeah.
moms, we're caregivers, we're super women. We say, I'm going to help everybody else. That's our days are filled with service to everyone, and gratitude to God also. But we don't offer, for me, I wasn't always on the other end of that. And now, my kids needed, my sons, they were adults, but I mean, needed shoes and a coat to go to school, everything. We didn't have anything. And so what was miraculous was that people, put together a GoFundMe and a movement, and almost 800 people donated and wrote messages to us, which were the most powerful spiritual part of the resilience building. And they said, you helped me after 9/11, or your son volunteered in church, or helped my kid learn to wrestle for free, or my husband did something nice for somebody. Every good deed we ever did came back to us.
Wow.
And people wanted to give back to us. And so that whole reciprocity was something that I had studied in my research in my peer support, the reciprocal peer model. And I thought, wow, this is really true. It happens all over. You know, the news makes it seem like people are mean and bad and it's a terrible world and we all hate each other. But the fact of the matter is that's so not true, that there's so much kindness and goodness and you know the evidence of God around us. And so those almost 800 people donated $118,000 to help us
Wow.
rebuild our house and buy
Wow.
things to fill it. But they also inspired me to think about I want to give back to my community, and I want to start this nonprofit. So I called it Volunteer. It's new. Genevieve is on my board, and we're doing great. But it's basically to help people get peer support, give peer support if they want to be trained to be a peer counselor, or grow peer support in an organization like My Goal, where you're already embedded in peer support. You do peer support in every way, shape, or form. So doing something like this helps me to grow your peer support by being present. So, right, wherever two or
Yeah.
more are gathered. So,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so yeah, and so I guess the very long-winded answer is I'm in Roseland, but volunteer, you know, we've been able to offer services throughout New Jersey, now in this past year throughout the country, and even internationally in Ukraine. So, you know, we've been all over with our work with volunteer.
Right. And I'm so glad that you were able to kind of speak to your story, and thank you so much for your transparency because when people see you, you're always smiling but have no idea the journey and the walk. And so I'm hoping that when people are listening, they will see that there's a value, and as we go through challenges, as we go through it, the same experience that we'll gain from it, it will be a blessing to someone. Right. So for families that are listening right now or watching, if you had to simply define the word resilient, what would that look like in just layman terms? So, Pat, what would you think if you think of the word resilient? What would you think in layman's term?
Oh, only put me in the spot.
No, just say whatever word comes to mind. If it doesn't, that's fine.
Yeah, I
Then,
mean, I usually ask people when they think of resilience, like to think of their own, like what is it that holds you up or puts your broken heart together, helps you get up when you fall? Like what is that trait you have? Or is it a person? Is it a thing? Is it a spirit? What is it for you to describe your strength, Pat?
Um, I would say my community.
mm.
Mm, your community.
What
Yeah.
about the community?
Like okay, let me just be transparent. Like when I hear other people's story or see people going through what I think I'm going through,
Yes.
I can complain. So it's like I look like I'm not saying better, but my case is not as worse as some people. So I look at myself like I can't complain at all. I just have to be grateful. So that's why I come into like they hold me up like "Ah, look at people that even have worse than you. At
Right.
least my son can be able to express himself.
Right.
There are people that can't even like the kids that I work with when they our behavior, they can't express themselves. It's like they're trying to say something, they can't say, so they get into behaviors like kind of like they can't express themselves. So that kind of like me, like I look at my child, like wherever my son is going through, at least it can put in this word like this is what I'm going through. So when I hear other people kid like they can express themselves. So it's like I'm saying, it's like it just like I can't compare. I just like my community, like looking around, see what they're going through, and see some of them still serving God, not giving up. Because I'm a kind of person like when something hit me so hard, I just give up. I say I'm done. I just throw in the towel. I'm like I'm done. I like no. But when I see some people like Genevieve here. Hmm. I like, no, pa, you can. No matter how much I want to give up, I still have to like, no, people have it worse than I do. Even like, I remember what she told me. She said, you might look yourself as a single mother, but you're not alone. So
Mm,
that's like my community.
I love that. I
Mm.
love that, Patricia. I love that.
So Cherie, based on what she's sharing and the work that you've been doing, what are some of the tools that people can leverage to grow in their resiliency?
Yeah, I mean, I think you and Patricia just highlighted it, and in my kind of, sharing of my own journey. And again, I, I do, I do think that it's okay to be sad and depressed and anxious, and I don't want to make it seem like the resilience means we don't fall. I want to make that clear, right? It just means we bounce back. So we get knocked down and we bounce back. We get knocked down. I think about those like blow up, clowns where you knock them down and they're weighted and they bounce back. But for me, and I think for all of us, according to the science, it starts with self-awareness. So the first thing is self-awareness. So like just Patricia being able to like articulate that that community holds her up is
Mm,
like a key resilience skill. And then the second thing is connection. One of the big skills is connection.
mm,
And, we just talked about that, this peer to peer, only we mothers understand each other, and having community and having that connection to other people who have the same lived experience is resilience building. So we go from self-awareness to connection. The next skill, according to the research, is called like strength of character. Like, what are your values? How do we live into our faith and our intentions, and not let the world kind of pull us away from all of those things that we started with before, the trauma, the tragedy, the challenge, the stress. So really knowing like our character and our values, and how to make sure that our behavior is
mm,
in line with that, and that we're modeling that for our children. And the next skill is called mental agility, giving you high level ones. Again, we can do the series someday. But mental agility is, they describe it in the research like, you anticipate that, something's going to happen and somebody changes your schedule at work last minute, or,
mm,
you have to readjust. And in my mind, I think no one has more mental agility than a mom with a kid with autism, right? Because literally you have got to pivot and turn and twist and adapt every 10 seconds. So if you didn't have mental agility before you had that child, you do
mm,
now. And,
mm,
it's like it's a demand of the motherhood. But that is a skill, because there are some people who are like, as long as everything goes the way it's planned, then I'm good. If anything goes sideways, I fall apart. So, that mental agility is another resilience skill. I think so if we do self-awareness, connection, strength of character, mental agility, I think that optimism is the last one. And I think, people think you're optimistic or you're not, right? Some people are born and they're very positive. Other people are very negative. You meet those people and you're like, oh, this person does nothing but complain. I don't want them in my space. All these books about toxic people. But it seems like people lean into naturally being, optimistic or pessimistic. And, in my family, they say, as much as I was like, not always the best behaved kid, that I was always like a very positive, kind of happy, kind of grateful child from birth. But I think we, again, with all these resilient skills, we can learn optimism.
mm,
And I think I lost my optimism early on in the challenges with my
mm,
son's disability. And, unlike a lot of people, much of the treatments and the therapies and the
mm,
prayer manifested into him, you know, being this typically functioning, magnificent, wonderful man that I mentioned. But I think that, and so of course I'm optimistic again, because I look at him and I'm inspired and optimistic every second of the day. But I think that when I was in the middle of the struggle, it was hard to learn optimism, right? Because I just kept thinking as soon as we would address one problem, something else would happen. Or in our experience, we would take 5 steps forward and 10 steps back, and that roller coaster affected my ability to sustain my optimism. And so anyway, I think so, these skills, the great news is that Dr. Seligman and the positive psychology unit says we can learn these. Like
Mm.
if we don't have them now, we can learn ways to, just like we can learn a language, or we can learn to study or a certain job. We can learn to be resilient by developing these skills.
No, I mean, thank you so much that you did it at a very high level, and it's definitely an opportunity to go deeper in each of this component of this aspect. What will be out of the six that you described? Which one do you think is, maybe it's one more than the other that you just think that is crucial?
Yeah,
Crucial.
I mean, I think it comes down to connection. As we start to wrap, I think it's the connection that you and I talked about. It's the connection with mothers and families, the community that Patricia talked about. And I think what I love about the mission of My Goal and the mission of Volunteer is that is our primary focus. We are not providing mental health treatment. We of course have some education, you more than me in what you do, but my whole mission is about connecting moms with moms, police with police, fire with fire, people who have the same lived experience to connect and not feel alone. And it's so amazing to be connected to My Goal and be able to talk about this tonight.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, like I said at the beginning of the program, we definitely would love to continue a segment on it because I think there's a need where people are very distracted about all the challenges that are happening around them. And so there's going to need to have continual conversation on how people can process what they're feeling. I just love how you just asked Patricia the question. What does that look like for you? And, she was able to articulate that you said self-awareness, right? And and how do people begin to just become more emotional intelligent about their feelings and owning it and not apologizing for it, all the things that some of us look at us and like, oh my God, you have it all together. You're like, I stop apologizing to people for how I show up
Right.
because you can't walk in my shoes for a hot minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Giving myself permission to feel the way I do, uh,
Yeah.
and being able to put those boundaries up. These are some things that, not from the work that compared to the work that you do. That's just for me that the faith journey that I walk in.
Yes.
And, I call it that this is my identity in Christ, that this is who God created me. That one of my favorite scriptures, Psalm 139, and it talks about how you're never out of his sight. He said, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Everything about you, I knew it before you were even formed. So, I just love what that description of how you just said, the Holy Spirit remind you to just hug your son, and that owning, you just come to a place of realizing that I have a creator who created this child that I'm responsible
Mhm.
for. And I'm
Mhm.
doing the best that I can when I can and how I can. And, the things that are beyond my control, I can't control. And that is, giving him the best I can and not trying to control the narrative, right?
Yes.
So once I came to the revelation, I use the word revelation, and
Yeah.
understanding of who I am in Christ, that I'm good the way I am, that my experiences are part of my journey. I was okay with that. And that enables me to do the work that I do and being able to be there for someone. And when I can't be, I know that God will be there for them.
Yes.
And
What
that's
a-
what Pat was referring to about you're not alone. You're never alone. You're absolutely never alone. You may be, we all know that sometimes we're among people and feel lonely. And yet you could be in a room by yourself and feel so full. Why?
Yes.
Because there's
Yes.
angels around us that surround us, right? So when I was preparing for our talk tonight, and one of the and I, I'm a part of a prayer team at my church, and we were doing a prayer earlier, and I had the privilege to lead it. And one of the texts that we were reading out of that, and I would read it from the Message version. It was Second Corinthians chapter 4. And I always tell people, disclaimer, I'm a woman of faith. If you want to see that what powers this engine, is my faith in Christ. So Second Corinthians 14 to 16 to 18, and it's from the Message version. And it was this man called Apostle Paul. And he wrote this beautiful letter to the people in Corinth. And he says, reminding them, he says, so we're not giving up. How could we? Even though on the outside it often looks like things have fallen apart on us. On the inside, where God is making new life, not a day goes by without his unfolding grace. These hard times are small potatoes compared to the coming good times, the lavish preparation prepared for us. There is far more here than meets the eye. Things we see now are here today, gone tomorrow. But the things we can't see now will last forever. You may read in another text in New King James and IV, but the point here is the things that we're seeing right now that is getting everybody all excited and overwhelmed are temporary, but there's much something greater. And it's just having faith and having the confidence that all things will work together for our good. And that's the power of optimism, as she said.
Yeah.
That's the power of faith. That's the power of having connections. That's the power of having community, is knowing that you are not alone. And I just, in my own small way, hoping that if you're listening in tonight, you're watching us. I want to welcome Lilia. She's actually in a Zoom room with us from Utah. Lilia just moved out there, and she's also one of the families, has a daughter with Down syndrome. And we're walking this journey together and walk this faith together. And part of our journey is that we'll build resiliency. So I just want to encourage all of us. For some of us, we're a little we're thinking about what will happen with resources that the community needs. They're talking about Medicaid funding. And I just want to put that word out there that Medicaid is not just a health insurance. It's a lifeline for a number of individuals with special needs. That's how they get therapies. That's how they get housing. That is crucial. So if you're listening and you see the work that My Go does, a lot of our families are dependent on Medicaid for that direct support professional that supports that individual to go to, to the soccer, game, or even to get transportation. That's the impact that these cuts will do for us. So, but I want to encourage us that don't lose heart just because you're hearing these things. Don't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, let me jump in there and just add that, I think fear is such a like an anti-resilient kind of dynamic. And I think it's so easy to be afraid.
Yes.
And I think fear is so normal. And, my dad who passed away, but was a huge, huge influence in my life and in my both my sons' lives. Especially in the darkest times with my son, he loved the scripture, delight in the Lord, and he will grant your heart's desire.
Mhm.
So to almost not just hope, but believe
Yes.
that our well-being and our children's well-being is going to be granted. And
Yes.
and just firmly stand in that to combat that fear and that noise as it drains our energy and drains our resilience and affects our faith. It's really important to just, we have all kinds of, your scripture was beautiful, but I always think about that. Like if I delight in the Lord, like I'm having a party and celebrating that things are working out when the news is telling me the opposite, because, they don't know what I know, what we know, which is that, God's already there. God's already,
Yes.
worked it
Absolutely.
out. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Thank you.
love.
No, perfect. I want to open it up. Lilia or Pat, do you have any questions for Cherie? She's gonna come back with it. We just only just touched the tip of the iceberg of this brilliance this woman has. Any questions that you have for her?
Yes, yeah, I need, do you meet in person or can I be able to, yes, I need, I don't know, maybe you meet in person or I don't know, Facebook, Instagram to be
Where
part
do-
of.
where do you where are you, Patricia? Are you anywhere near me? Are you in New Jersey?
Yeah, I
Yes.
live in New York.
Okay.
Newark.
So you live in Newark. We're so close to each other. Yes, the answer is yes. And so my volunteer, it's like the word volunteer, but it has a P. My volunteer website is volunteer.us. let me give you, so it's volunteer.us. My telephone number at volunteer is 551
551
312
312
7578.
7578. All right.
And I mean, all of the resources and beautiful groups that Genevieve gives you, mine pale in comparison, but we have a small group of moms, who are like us, that I have a small office, but it's very sweet and I always have food. And yeah, and I got a comfortable couch. And I think there's something about meeting in person that allows us to feel that community too, right, Patricia? So I would
Yes.
love to put something together, just for us and whomever else for my goal, wants to come and join together, if they can get to the office now that we're out of that winter snow season, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so for those who are watching, who just says, I want to connect to the work that Volunteer is doing, please, you just heard her, Volunteer, P instead of T, .us. Go on the website, you get some information about the program. This is it goes beyond, what she's describing. I'm just so proud of the work, and that's why I said there's an opportunity to do more of this work together, especially in this season. I believe that that's necessary. I think back to COVID, and some of the gains that we got from it, right? Out of that became the opportunity to do virtual programming. So in this season, I think there's an opportunity for people to connect. Connection is crucial, conversation is crucial, and it go a long way. And Sharice has graciously agreed that however way my goal can partner with Volunteer to do this work, we will do it. So just want to just encourage all of you to just really reach out in either way. So if you are interested in learning more, go to volunteer.us and you'll gain more information about the programming that's being done. And it's not just even for special needs. And I think that's what really crucial, that Cherie, I'm sure you're excited for people to reach out and learn more about the work.
Yes. And I think we might have one of my friends and supporters, I think Raj.
All right,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know if she could say hello just before we jump off, if it's okay. I don't know if you.
Yes, 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 yes. Raj, you want to say hello?
Yes. Hi, sorry. Can you hear me? Sorry,
Yes.
my internet is kind of flickering. That's why I could not come. This is the first time I'm coming here. Don't know what I was expecting. I'm sorry for the delay. I thought it's like a 7 Central and joined like 40 minutes late. I'm here. And my name is Raj, and I have a seven and a half year old ASD kid, high functioning. He does everything else very well, like self dependent. It's just the behaviors, especially like eye contact and like the social involvement, and those are something that are stuck. Like since we kind of got diagnosed like 2.5 years ago. We've been doing like ABA and then speech and he's in the special needs school, and he's on IEP, and we finally got the approval for his MBA to be planned out in the coming weeks. So we are doing whatever we could. So I was just wondering, what was the best that like knowing that there are a lot of parents out there who would not know the navigation of this autism so-called ocean of things. So I just wanted to see how I could be helpful to the society, as well as getting some information on what else I could do for my son. Um, that's my intention to come here on this call.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Raj, for being a part of here. You've just joined a community by being here.
Yeah.
The community that says that we're learning our children's, day in and day out. I just call it you're blessed because there is now an intentionality to engage with teachers, with therapists, to
Mm.
make sure what they're learning is what they should be learning. I think a lot of times our neurotypical children, we kind of leave them and just leave the school to figure it out, right? And it's, yeah, let's do some homework with you. But for the neurodivergent individual, the person who needs more support, there is an intentionality. And I think that's what makes, this community very powerful. So I'm glad that you joined. So just drop your email in our chat. I'll grab that. We'll make sure that you get onto our email list. Um, we typically do a program called Ask the Expert. And the whole idea there is where we bring in different people with different expertise. We host it virtually here, the same way we're doing it, just so that, or you can also send email to info@mygoalinc.org to get on our email list. The goal really is that we want to partner with programs that are going on in the country. Because the reality is that no one organization can provide everything everyone needs. And that's really important that people know that, because sometimes, like, you can join as many groups as possible, because the goal there is to make sure that you know what tools there are.
Mhm.
You also know that the mainstream information is there and it should be applicable anyway. We have to put a demand on society not to just only create special programs, but to make room within the programs that we're in so that all individuals can access it. I
And if I
know,
could just, yeah, if I could just jump in and affirm that, Raj, it seems like everything you're doing is right on target, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to confirm and affirm your being such a good dad and being so well informed and taking in information. And Genevieve and my goal have such a rich depth of expertise and understanding of the resources. And like she was mentioning, it's not one size fits all. And you'll use different resources in different groups, but the approach you're taking right this minute from your quick summary was exactly where most of us, my son is 23 years old now, in graduate school with a graduate assistantship, doing beautifully, talking, well, everything is miraculous that no one ever knew anything he ever was challenged with. But there were a lot of that work and a lot of that focus and a lot of that advocacy that you're already doing is where we start. So, be proud of yourself for getting on, for what you're doing already. Trusting God. And of course, the reason why I started the program, that Mom to Mom that I talked about long ago, is that mothers and fathers know the most about what to do. Much more than doctors, much more than teachers, much more than anybody. So people who have walked in your shoes and have children who are healthy and happy and thriving are the people who can help give you, the best resource. And that's what my goal does so beautifully.
Oh, thank
yeah.
you. The main like what it's like this every morning when I get up, what else I can give to my son. Even if I'm treating him like a third person, like, and I would like to be the society to accept, let's say if I go to a friend's place who has got a son with an artistic, but see, if not everybody is trying to understand that, anything could change any day, any miracle could happen any day, any kind of, we call it as milestones or stepping stones or
Mhm.
improvements. Well, we call whatever we know he's been improved. It's like a human being. He's doing the best we could. We are pushing him to the corner, but sometimes when you feel like, when the teacher says, what, he's not even listening to me today. He's not focused. Like he's by himself, and I'm like, okay. The therapist would say, the BT, like our BTs would say, oh, he's wonderful. He's got so much of improvement. He's learning so much. I'm like, where do you really stand yourself? Like, you wait for 6 7 months to get a neurologist, like, in 10 minutes they'll say, yeah, go give some methylphenidate or some kind of a medicine. And we are confused now, right, to give and to see. Once you read about it, it's like this: once you know, it's a problem; once you don't know, it's a different problem. Because once you know and give the stimulants, if there are side effects, what are we going to do about it? And because they're not available. I mean, even though they say that, oh yeah, send a message in the what are the portals, and they're not going to be able to get back to you until their next appointment. And we're like, we're so stressed out. At the end we have the medication we're not giving right now, because we do see his improvement, whatever we are getting. It's just that I just want to see what else that I could reach him, especially in the school setup, because I cannot recreate a school setup. We take him to the malls and other public places just to get him more awareness. Like, he's fine with the theaters, but it's just that he's not really trying to interact with others. But at the school, we are really finding it a bit hard, and that's where I'm kind of really kind of bit.
Right. So what Cherie said, you should be proud of yourself for how much you're doing. You're doing a lot. And because for families, a lot of times we just beat ourselves up because we're like, that should be more that I should be doing. There should be more that I should be doing. Raising children is like a marathon. You are, for some people, the challenges for their kids, they may be neurotypical. The kids run into issues when they're teenagers, when they're in your 20s. It's very unpredictable. But the reality is that you're doing anything, everything that you can, that you're able to do, you're doing. And trust the process that it was going to work out. It does. It's just that when you're starting the journey, you're starting to, you feel like it's a sprinter. You want to just run as quickly because you're told, if you don't do this right now, blah, blah, blah. Do you know that because of Alzheimer's work, they're learning that they used to tell us that the neurons all stop like growing by the age of 5.
Yes.
Actually, science is proving that that's not true at all.
Right.
You know, because I always say Alzheimer's is the reverse of autism, right? They get older, they can't remember, they can't do things on their own. So there's a lot of work that's going in there. So there's more to come. And if you listen to stories of hope, you know, what Cherie just shared, this is one of the reasons why we exist. We exist to support families facing autism and other intellectual disabilities throughout their lifespan. And we do that by really inspiring people to have hope that your child will live to do the best that they were created for. Have the vision of that in mind and then walk with them on that journey. That is important. And that's why we do programs like this because we have to remind people, put on the mask and you're doing okay. Stop beating yourself up. Start, you're doing exactly what you need to do right now. And sometimes the kid is going to tell you, I'm tired. We log them around everywhere. Therapy this, that. They're tired. And sometimes you got to take a break. It's
No, I
okay.
feel bad, like he wakes up at like 7:30 between and then gets to school, like comes back at 4 and 3 hours ABA, and then we push him to the speech. All 5 days
Yeah.
he's occupied, and Saturday, Sunday we're kind of greedy. You know what? Let me take to a mall. Maybe he understands it better.
Yes.
Let me take to some community group activity.
Yes.
Something whatever I see, especially in the summers, we are like he's really busy, right? We are so busy that we don't even take care of ourselves. That's the situation. But at the same time, we feel happy for the results. But some things are kind of when you feel like what he's not he's there but he's not it's like when you cannot do versus when you think you can do but you're not able to. Is there
Yeah.
something like an instigator that would push him. Oh, so that's
So
the
I think it's important because I didn't even realize how much I don't know if you have other kids, but sometimes we focus on that one individual at
Yes.
the expense of everybody else, including
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes.
And we're not doing that. We it's a huge disservice. So even if
Yes.
that one person makes gains, you've lost the other ones.
Yes.
So really the balance is so important.
Yes.
So important. I've journeyed now 20, almost 20 years now with my son that I can honestly tell you that I'm so glad there were moments that I stopped running and like, okay, we're gonna take a break right now so that I can make sure that other ones are fine and I'm fine.
yeah.
We want to tell you that balance. You're not expecting to hear that because sometimes we're like, let's tell you all the therapies, let's tell you all the doctors.
Yeah,
No,
we know all the best. We have all the research, right, Genevieve? Because we do have a lot of information. Believe me, if you want information, you get that email. You're going to be overloaded with information. But I think the wisdom and the spirit of what Genevieve is sharing. I mean, I wish someone told me to be more mindful of my other family members. I wish someone told me that. So that's a gift she just gave you, because
really, really take care of yourself, take care
yes,
of your family.
yes,
Please, 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 because we've seen families fall apart. It
yes,
got to a point my house was falling apart. I didn't even realize how terrible because you just can't, you're just like go, 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 go. And you
right.
wake up one day and you look around and like, what the heck? It's like a
Right.
storm just hit and you didn't
Yes.
even realize that it's you because you just know whatever resource that I have, it goes to that therapy. Everything you live and breathe, everything for that one thing. And you don't realize that there is neglect in other areas of your life.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
exactly what
why.
happened. Like he was diagnosed when he was 2.5. I'm here in this country for close to like 28 years. So I originally came from India, so we never heard of autism, no neurodivergent, no special needs and no spectrum, no ASD. I mean, all the lingo, right? It was
Yeah.
all brand new, like neurologist, no neuropediatrician, all that. So when he was 2.5, we diagnosed And like you said, exactly what I went through. I was pushing. Like I told my wife not to work for 5 years just to take care of the kid, and so no only one single income for all these therapies, co-pays, and his expenses. All of a sudden, 5 years later, we're saying where what happened. Then my wife started working, but then we pushed around. You know what? Let's not have another kid immediately, or even after 6 years. We were even 7 years. We were still thinking. Then last few months back, we decided, you know what? We did whatever we could. I mean, by God's grace, we are kind of stable right now, and then have got like a physically active and all, like life is going on, and we will take care of him, whatever we could, but also let's take care of ourselves also,
Yeah.
which what happened. Like I had the tendonitis Achilles for years that I don't even know. I didn't go to multiple doctors. I just went to the regular doctor. You get the naproxen, meloxicam, and then you sleep off, and you think that it's all solved. I didn't even take it. Now, when I look back, you know what? This is something that I also have to take care, just like our
Yeah.
him. So you have
Yeah.
completely said it right.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's
Yeah, no, kudos. Great job. And that's why we're here to say that's part of the resiliency story. And I'm so glad that you joined. And thank you, Cherie, for inviting Raj to be here tonight. So yeah, you're perfect. Hopefully you gained something out of this, even just sharing. There are families that are listening that are also going to be blessed by what you shared. And I want you to know that that's part of how you pay it forward. When somebody looks at you and say, wow, you're going through exactly the same thing I'm going through, that is the community. That is the value. And it's not a big, sometimes like the best a kid would do is walk on that stage and collect a piece of paper, a diploma. But that moment, we captured that moment. So this is going to be all part of the conversation. So Cherie, yes, we'll continue part 2 next month.
Yes, can't
We'll
wait.
do
What
that.
a
Yes,
blessing.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
what a
yes.
blessing to be together.
Yeah, so I want to
Thank you,
say
my
thank you
Cherie.
everyone for being here tonight. This is such an enriching. Raj, thank you for joining. Pat, thank you for contributing. It really validates what we do. You just feel good, yeah, afterwards. Every time I do this program, like I'm always thinking, what the heck am I going to talk about when we get on here? We get on here, we have conversation, and then it's a blessing. So, and you never know what's going to be. So, I want to say we love every one of you. Remain resilient by giving yourself a break.
Yes,
Tell yourself, I'm good enough.
yes.
And it's all going to work out.
yes.
That's the power of words. That is positive. We learned that optimism is key. So, Cherie, lots of love, and we'll talk
Lots
soon
of love.
offline.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank,
everyone. Have
thank
a
you
good
so much.
night.
It was a blessing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
My email in the chat also.
All
Thank you.
right, I got it. Yep.